Greetings YouTube and welcome to the Blue Corner and to a Cardfight Vanguard deck profile. In this video we're going to be doing a look over at Gear Chronicle post set 7, at least one of the ways you can build a deck, which is a Wombo combo route involving TikTok Worker and Warp Drive Dragon, and yeah, so i.e. Japanese style Gear Chronicle. The other route you can play is just a more simple build where you run 4 next stage, 4 Chrono Jet, 3 Balaf, and you don't really try and do all the shenanigans that come with this card and Mellum and such, which I feel is the more consistent build of the deck. This one isn't but I will be the first to admit that it's pretty damn fun to play, although it does have its flaws, which we will address as we get through the video. So, with that being said, let's get started. So, starting Vanguard is TikTok Worker, the card that has gotten a lot of attention because it's on the Japanese watch list. And prior to that, people are like, what does this card even do? So, his effect is, at the end of the battle, your other rearguard attack, you can throw him into the soul and time leap it. It's a simple effect that allows you to get extra attacks off in the battle phase, which is pretty much the thing for a lot of Vanguard decks now. Basically, unless you're playing a control deck, i.e. Chaos Breaker, or just Link Joker, Kagero, Narukami, and Mega Colony, unless you're playing decks like those that interfere with your opponent's rearguards, every deck out there at the moment seems to be doing a minimum of 4 attacks per battle phase. Grand Blue, well, 7 Seas can do 4 attacks, Night Rose can do 4 attacks, Paladins, all of them can do multiple attacks in the battle phase. Well, I don't know about Shadow Paladins, but they have restanding. Gold Paladins, they can also do multiple attacks in the battle phase. Nova Grapplers, Aqua Force. Need I go on? Anywho, so yeah, this card allows you to get multiple attacks off in the battle phase, and he has fun interactions with Mellum and Upstream Dragon, which we'll get to in a bit. And as such, I'm running 2 copies of it in case one gets retired, and or I am able to just combo further. Then for the grade 3s, 4 copies of Chrono Jet Dragon. We all know what he does at this point. 1 copy of Balaf, your 5th Chrono Jet Dragon. 1 Metal Glider Dragon. GB1, Counterblast 1, on ride or call, tuck a grade 1 or less rearguard. So, it has a useful effect you can utilize if you time leap a 2 into a 3, and you need to out a certain card like Laurel, then he's your guy. And finally, 1 Square 1 Dragon, who has 3 effects. The first one you will never use outside of Relay Fight, which is Counterblast 4, Soul Blast 6, tuck your opponent's board, and then they shuffle their deck. So, you're just straight up spinning your opponent's board into the deck. His other effects, though, are on Rearguard or Vanguard. No, wait, the third one is not, but on Rearguard or Vanguard, at the end of the turn, Soul Charge 1, which is very good, as this deck does use a fair bit of Soul. And then his other skill is Soul Blast 1, on call, his grade can become 0, which is really useful for time leaping him into a grade 1, i.e. Mellum, or something else like his Ulnagin, there we go, or a GG to get the Soul Blast. So it's these are some nice flexible cards you can run in here, but if you want to go the more consistent route, you just run 2 more copies of Balaf, and you just go from there. So yeah, basically you have Chrono Jet as your Vanguard, and then the other guys are just good calls from the deck through time leaping. Then for the grade 2s, 4 Upstream Dragon, he can become 13k. If you do, he goes into the deck and calls a 1 at rest. 3 History Maker Dragon, Counterblast 1 on attack, time leap a unit. 3 Steamworker Calibum on call, tuck one of your opponent's rearguards, and then they can call a unit with 1 grade lower than the tucked unit. This is both good and bad. It's good for outing a problem card, but it's bad because your opponent will replace it with an equally troublesome card, as tucking a 3 into a 2 will just probably result in getting killed because grade 2s usually have the best on calls. Tucking a 2 into a 1 is also not good because most grade 1s happen to have really good passive abilities, i.e. Blade Master's damage on flipper, Kagero's Conroe can just sack itself off for the next turn, etc., etc. And then most grade 0s happen to have a useful effect, i.e. every clan just about has their Heart Thump Worker clone, or you can just call back their starter that you tucked earlier. But if you tuck a 0, then that's great, i.e. your opponent's starter. So basically, he's really only good for when you're going first, or you're able to tuck your opponent's starter, because if you're going first, you can at least swing at the Vanguard with this thing, because they're on a 7k Vanguard. But if you're going second, this guy can't hit anything because you're swinging a 9k Vanguard. So you have to hope to guide your opponent call the 7k Vanguard up to the front, or rearguard up to the front, and then you can swing at that. So the other reason he's played, at least from my experience, is that when you unflip, you can tuck something with this guy, and if it have all Nijin in play, you can unflip a damage without having to use any counterblast, which is good if you happen to have no counterblasts and you need to next stage, but you have an all Nijin on board, then you can just stride next stage, call all Nijin, call this guy down, tuck something, get the unflip, and then you have next stage online. So small little interactions like that are just good to know, and he's usable before gem break, so yeah, that's nice. 1 Glimmer Breath Dragon, second on this one, Soul Blast 1, tuck a grade 2 or less unit, gain 2k until end of turn. They're called Glimmer Breath clones for a reason, they all do more or less the same thing as this guy. Then for the grade 1s, 3 Perfect Guard Gs, you need the unflipping. 3, what am I? What the hell? I cannot count. 4 Perfect Guard Gs, 4 Stride Assists. 3 Mellum, just like Upstrain, when she attacks, she can get big, and if you do, you call 0 out of the deck at rest while shuffling her back in. 1, what's his name? Itana, who, upon being bound from the field, or is it from the field? Yep, so yeah, if he's bound from the field, you can buff one of your units by 5k, so it's useful if you upstream into this thing and then time leap it off with the effect of Metallica Phoenix, or, what's his name? History Maker Dragon, there we go, wow. And then finally, 1 GG for the Soul Blast 2, draw 1. You can get away with running one-ofs in this deck, as thanks to your G Guardian, any one-ofs that gets put into the drop zone, i.e. you discard them, you damage check and heal them off, or you Soul Blast them off the effect of GG, they can just be recycled. So, that's it for the main deck. We still have our triggers to go through, but I just need the space. So, running 6 crits, featuring 4 Heart Merker, 4 heals, 3 draws, specifically the Margot clone, so you can pull it out of the deck through the effect of Mellum, and then on the next turn you can throw into the soul, and you can buff one of your units by 3k, i.e. History Maker Dragon, so it can swing unboosted and still hit. And then finally, 3 Herbitar, which is, I feel, one of the reasons why Mellum and TikTok Work are getting attention, because Mellum will pull this guy out. His effect is, if he's bound from the field, you can put him to the bottom of the deck, draw 2 cards, and then shuffle 1 back in, which is good for a couple of reasons. 1, he converts cards from field to hand. Secondly, since you can shuffle anything in your hand back into the deck, if you happen to have drawn your cards that you want to time leap into, i.e. your extra grade 3s, you can just throw them back then, and then time leap them again. Like, it's, I don't know what kind of card you can, it's basically a Sylvan Charity, but with far less restrictions. And when you're able to get multiple time leap plays off with this guy, you can do some pretty silly things. We'll get to that in a bit, though. First, I'll show you the Stride deck, and I'll show you a couple, at least 1 or 2 of the combos. So, for the Strides, 2 Metallica Phoenix on attack, wall attack in the Vanguard, G-flip anything, time leap a unit. 2 next stage. Not much I can really say. Next stage is bonkers. Only running the 2 of it, though, because I had to cut out next stages in order to run copies of, by all accounts, an inferior card. Like, that's the one downside I have about playing this type of Gear Chronicle deck, is you're only playing 2 next stage because you want to fit in room for the more wombo combo oriented grade 4s, when by all accounts I think 4 next stage is still just incredibly good to do. But I figured I'd give this deck a try, and here we are. So yeah, take it for what you will. I mean, the idea basically is that you, between Phoenix and Warp Drive Dragon, you're putting your opponent to 5 damage, so that by the time you stride to next stage, they're going to die one way or another. Or if next stage won't finish them off, your second Phoenix will. Then 1 Chronos Command Dragon and 2 Revolution for the board wiping capabilities. You can flip them with Phoenix, so yeah, it's fine. 3 Warp Drive Dragon. So this skill is Counter Blast 1, Soul Blast 1, choose a card in your G zone, and you may turn it up. Yeah. And for every face-up copy of this guy in the G zone, you can time leap one of your rear guards, and then you choose one of your opponent's rear guards whose grade is equal to or less than the number of units you leapt through this effect, and tuck it. So he allows you to time leap a unit and potentially tuck a problem card out of the way. Neat little interaction is you call the unit first, then tuck, so you can time leap a 0 into an all Nijin and then tuck their 1 or less rear guard away and get an unflip. So you're basically just soul blasting 1. And He's basically, your line of play is going to be, you go into this guy if you happen to have not Etana. Well, Etana in hand is actually one good reason to go into this guy. But if you happen to have Urbatars in hand, then you can just call Urbatar down, use this guy's effect, time leap into a Melon, call History Maker Dragon down, and go from there. But yeah, 3 I think is all you'll ever need for this list. A 4th one has never really come up, as you can flip 1 copy, and you can go into the 2nd one, not flip a card, and go into the 3rd one and not flip a card, and you have your 3 uses of Warp Drive Dragon. 1 Sea Breeze, we all know what this guy does at this point. Then for the G Guardians, 1 Dismal, you can use it to protect one of your guys from Laurel the deck. It's useful for just keeping a couple of your guys safe from certain attacks. But it's the Gear Chronicle G Guardians that are really stupid in here. So you have your 3 Retroactive Time Maiden Uluru, whose effect is when it's placed on Guardian Circle, you can choose a trigger and a non-trigger unit in your drop zone, put them to the bottom of the deck in any order, and then she gains 5k. That's ridiculously good. You can use this to recycle units that you want to time leap into. You can recycle your heal triggers so you don't, so that any heals you draw early are usable. She keeps you from decking out, which hasn't really been a problem for Gears for a while now, as generally speaking, you either kill them or they kill you before that even happens. But still, it's a really good card. And then 1 copy of Highbrew Steam Rafana, whose effect is you choose one of your grade 1 or greater rear guards, tuck it, and then call a grade 0 from your deck at rest. Notable targets include your TikTok Worker, your Urbatar if you want to go into Warp Drive Dragon, your Heart Thump Worker if you want to use Hits effect. And yeah, when your opponent targets your rear guard for an attack, you can just use this card's effect to tuck it, and then their attack fizzles. They still get their drive checks, but that's, yeah. Basically, if your front row rear guard is going to get hit by Warning or Turbo, you can use this guy to protect your Vanguard and your rear guard. So that's a neat little interaction. I always wondered how that worked, but that's how it is. So that's the deck itself. Now, as far as some shenanigans that can be done, let's just grab our cards out here for this. So we'll just get a booster. We'll get Mellum. We'll also get Upstream Dragon and TikTok History Maker Dragon. Yeah, we'll get these guys out. We'll grab Chronicle Dragon as our Vanguard, and we'll get TikTok Worker as the rear guard. So let me just set up my board. Yeah. Yeah, we can just do it like this. And we'll just grab Metallica Phoenix. And let's begin this. So this is what is hopefully going to be your typical stride term of the deck. And the way you will go is you attack with Mellum. She uses her effect. She goes back into the deck. And your opponent dropped 5k shield to block this. So you call this out. Then you can have your Metallica Phoenix swing, effect, time leap this, and call out a Mellum from your deck. This guy's effect will go off. Go to the bottom of the deck, draw 2 cards, and shuffle 1 back in. And then your opponent will do their perfect guard, or they'll let it hit. Hope to God they don't hit any defensive triggers. If they do, then this play kind of stops cold. Then you swing with Mellum again, effect, back into the deck, call out Urbatar. Then, at this point, you can choose to either use the effect of TikTok Worker on Mellum to time leap her into an Upstream Dragon if you feel like if your opponent hit a defensive trigger, or you can choose to call a different grade 2 out of the deck, but we're not going to do that. Then, History Maker Dragon will time leap this, call another Mellum, and your guy's effect will go off, draw 2 more cards, shuffle 1 back into the deck. So we're now at 2 cards in hand. And then TikTok Worker's effect goes off, time leap this. And what you call at this point is, it depends on, actually no. No. We're going to grab our Square 1 Dragon, Soul Blast 1, and make him a grade 0. So Mellum will attack again. They'll drop another guard, throw into the deck, call hit a TikTok Worker, then swing with your Square 1 Dragon. Remember, it's grade 0. They block that. This guy's effect goes off. Time leap it. And then at this point, you can choose to either call out another Melon for another attack. No, wait, we're calling a grade 2. Oh, yeah, we're calling a grade 1 out there. You can either call another Melon for another attack, or you can call a GG, Soul Blast to draw 1. So, swing with Melon again, effect, call 0 out from your deck. Should note, though, that you've kind of broken up your time leaping in that you won't be able to call back your History Maker Dragon or your Square 1 Dragon because the links were broken. That's one of the ways you can go about it. I don't think that was the most optimal way to do it, but this is a deck where you have a lot of plays open to you, and you can either play it well or play it badly. Now, as far as another one goes, let's just get our board set up again. We'll actually do this. Let's just grab our Warp Drive Dragon. We'll need a card in Soul, so let's just have this guy in there. Alright, so Warp Drive Dragon effect, Canvas 1, Soul Blast 1, flip a copy of himself face up, Time Leap this, call a Melon, skill, go into the deck, draw 2, shuffle back 1, and then you have a couple ways you can go about this one too. You can swing with Melon, effect, go back in the deck, call. You can swing with this, Time Leap this, call a Melon back, go back in the deck, draw 2, shuffle 1 back. You can then swing with this, apply any triggers you want on here. Say you check a crit, throw it on here. Then you swing with this, they guard it, whatever, and then you can Time Leap Melon in this, and then call a grade 2 and a grade 0 from your deck at rest. So, I mean, a grade 2 in attack and a grade 0 from your deck at rest. So you can call a History Maker, an Upstream Dragon here, and then you can call a TikTok Worker from your deck. Oh, yeah, I forgot the Soul Blast. No, yeah, I did Soul Blast. And then you can swing for 13, and you can have his effect go off. You can Time Leap this, and call your grade 3 out of your deck. Again, we'll go with Square 1 Dragon, so we can have Soul, but if your opponent has something that needs to be outed, you can go for a Metal Glider Dragon. Swing with this. End of turn. This guy will Soul Charge 1. Go back in the deck. You'll call your Upstream. Your Melon that you time leapt into the Upstream Dragon is permanently bound, but you still got a fair amount of attacks off. And on a side note, for those of you wondering how Melon and Upstream work when facing Denial Griffin, when Melon and Upstream use their abilities to gain 4,000 power, you meet the conditions to call the grade 1 or the grade 0 from your deck at rest. Meaning, if you attack with an Upstream Dragon and they use Denial Griffin on it, it will die, but you'll still call your 1 out of your deck at rest, which basically makes the Denial Griffin play a waste, as like they basically blocked an attack with Upstream with Denial Griffin that they could have used a 5k or a 10k shield to block as well and not wasted one of their G Guardians. So this also works with situations such as Upstream and Melon versus Freeze Ray Dragon, and as you may have noticed, it also works with TikTok Worker in that you can Time Leap them before they go back in the deck, call 2 units out of the deck, 1 in attack and 1 at rest, and that's that. So anyway, the video's gone on a bit too long, so we'll just wrap it up here saying I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'm probably going to go back to a more conventional Gear Chronicle list and take these guys out for 4 next stage and something else. I had one that kind of mixed the two together where I ran 10 crits in 2 stands and just TikTok Worker and Chrono Drawn, and that one was, I think better than this one. I'd have to go back and see. I don't remember. I wasn't running additional grade 3 zone. I do like the idea of running like the one of Metal Glider Dragon alongside 2 battles, so I might do that. Don't know, but you can stay tuned for that, and I'll upload it if you really want to. But otherwise, like everyone knows a standard Gear Chronicle list. I just wanted to feature this one for a bit. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Until next time, this is BOOOOOOIIIIIIIII, jacking out.